ESPN Speed World welcomes you once again live to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. As Before They Go Green hits the air for the next hour, kind of a recap of what's gone on here the last 3 days, and maybe a look ahead at what we can expect tomorrow when they do go green. Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Jenkins. This is Benny Parsons. Seems like we've been here before, huh?
Man, it seems like I've lived at this spot all week long.
It's been a rather long 3 days, but it's been a very exciting 3 days, and I guess tomorrow will tell us, but from the way things appear, it's going to be kind of interesting.
You know, second round qualifying today was the most exciting thing in the world. The way it worked out, it was just so exciting, but yet so sorrowful because all the guys had to go home. 8 or 9 guys had to go home, but the cars that qualified later started getting in the field, bumping guys out, in the field, bumping guys out. It got to be very exciting there at the end.
We will review just exactly what happened during second round qualifying a little bit later, but first, let's take a look at what happened in happy hour. There was some really good stuff going on out there, and Benny, we talked about this live, but you wonder why the guys have to go out there and run so close together and maybe take a chance of somebody getting in trouble, but you got to.
You have to simulate what's going to happen while the race is going on, and the way you can do it is to race. We see Ted Musgrave getting by Dale Earnhardt there, Jeff Burton going by. Ted Musgrave, one of the fastest cars, I think did have the fastest time in happy hour this afternoon.
It's been interesting how the team cars have kind of performed similarly here this week, as the Roush cars seem to be running about the same speed. The Yates cars do. The only exception to that maybe would be Team Hendrick.
Team Hendrick, Jeff Gordon is a little bit faster than Ricky Craven. I think Terry Labonte and Jeff Gordon are about the same speed, but Ricky Craven has been struggling in the Budweiser car.
Now, there is a perfect example and the answer to a big question that a lot of people had. Look at these drivers run 2 abreast through the corners. The Speedway just in the last couple of weeks installed some rumble strips, and many thought that because of that, there would only be single file through the corners. That's not the way it's going to be.
There you see the Burton brothers going down the corner. Earnhardt trying to make it 3 abreast. Again, it is chancy, but Earnhardt goes by Jeff Burton. You have to do things like this to find out exactly what that car is going to do. Burton, he comes back on Earnhardt. So Earnhardt led turn 1. Burton leads turn 2. If the camera will stay, we'll find out who leads turn 3, but the camera will probably not stay with us.
And we noticed there that Ward Burton in the short chute got up very, very close to the wall. Now here's Mark Martin catching up to Burton and to Earnhardt, as Earnhardt and Bobby Labonte decide that they have had enough for the moment and enter the warm-up lane.
Blue and white car is Ron Barfield, a Bill Elliott protege, as Michael Waltrip, the Sitco car, follows him, and Ward Burton.
And the car leading this group right now, Johnny Benson, well, he was until now. Burton goes to the inside and takes the spot away, but Benson ran so well here in last year's race.
And they go in turn 1, Bob, almost 200 miles per hour. They do not run through these corners wide open like an Indy car would. They have to back off, actually hit the brakes going in these corners. There we see Rich Bickle in the 26 car. That's Darrell Waltrip's team car. And Rich Bickle qualified in 10th spot. And how about old DW qualified 4th for the Brickyard 400.
And Wally Dallenbach also had a good run in qualifying. He'll start from 14th position tomorrow in the First Union Chevrolet, clocking in at 175.884. Once again, we see the Roush cars running together, Burton and Martin.
Terry Labonte has joined this group. Folks, you look at this and why this is taking such a chance, because most of these teams have a backup car on their truck. If they crash right now, NASCAR, they're in the race. NASCAR will allow them to bring another car off the truck, get it ready to go, and start at the rear of the field for the Brickyard 400.
Now we see Ricky Craven in this shot, and we talked about how he has struggled all week, took a provisional to get in the race. But you really can't tell a whole lot of how they qualified as to how they're going to race tomorrow.
No, exactly right. Jeff Gordon didn't have a particularly good run, but they think they will run good in the Brickyard 400.
You talk about the popularity of NASCAR, you only need look at the attendance yesterday and today. They estimated attendance yesterday at over 100,000 for pole day, and in second round qualifying we had several thousand, not up to the 100,000 level, but there were quite a few people in the stands for today's second round and for the happy hour.
see Steve Grissom. He's qualified 19th as Mark Martin, Terry Labonte go by. And we see Terry Labonte is going to start 38th, but he's hanging right with Mark Martin and Ted Musgrave.
And there is another rather sad story for the last 3 days. Rusty Wallace, who has not only taken a provisional to get in, but he took the champions provisional, the previous champions provisional, and will start in 43rd position tomorrow. Waltrip and Wallace go into the corner side by side, and DW could be racy tomorrow, huh?
DW passes Rusty Wallace going in the corner. Rusty passed Darrell going down the backstretch, and DW said, "I've got a horse. You're not going to do it this time."
A couple of interesting cars there. John Andretti and Jeff Green running side by side. John Andretti won at Daytona, and Jeff Green was the fastest in second round qualifying here today in the 29 car.
I mean, folks, isn't this absolutely amazing? This is as good as a race.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're only practicing.
Yep. I mean, look at this group here. There's half a field right there racing as if it were the real thing.
And the entire hour, there was not one incident. There was one red flag situation. I think someone lost a towel or a piece of rubber or something on the racetrack. They had to display the red flag. The worker walked across the racetrack, picked it up, and they go back to racing. But look, they're just inches apart.
It's been a relatively clean 3-day period as Mike Skinner and Lake Speed had encounters with the wall, and Ron Barfield hit the wall, but for the most part it's been a very clean and safe weekend. Let's hope that's the way that it goes tomorrow when they throw the green flag. There's Joe Nemechek right behind Darrell.
Front row Joe on the outside pole for tomorrow's Brickyard 400.
There's Rusty Wallace now trying to work to the inside of Nemechek. Terry Labonte right behind him. The pole sitter, Ernie Irvin, is leading this group of cars now down the backstretch. And again, this was taped earlier today, happy hour, when everybody goes out and dials their car in for race day.
And that was only 8-10 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes of action. Tomorrow, 3.5 hours of exactly the same thing, folks. It looks like it's going to be as competitive as ever here at the Brickyard, probably even more so. We thought the Roma strips would force the cars one lane. They look like they were races ever.
Well, you know, in the very first Brickyard 400 4 years ago, it was a good race, but there wasn't all that much competition and passing. There was a little more the next year. There was a little more last year, and I think they figured it out this year. There's going to be a lot.
Looks like they have. This is the 4th year. Maybe the 4th year is absolutely the charm.
That's right. Well, we'll be back to review first day qualifying tomorrow. We'll take a look at the top 10 as they stand for tomorrow's Brickyard 400. ESPN Speed World presentation of Before They Go Green, live from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway prior to tomorrow's Brickyard 400, being brought to you by Chevrolet Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. And by Pennzoil, formulated for today's stop-and-go driving. Stop, go, Pennzoil. Well, we've taken a look at happy hour today, and now let's go back to yesterday. First round qualifying and quite a few surprises.
You know something? The guy that's on the pole, Ernie Irvin, on the qualifying show at Texas, it looked like he was going to be on the pole. I interviewed him. And I guess the drivers in there think I'm a jinx.
Well, I can understand that.
But yesterday, you and I did the show from here, and they told me that if I'd come around, they were going to run me off. Ernie Irvin was not going to talk to me yesterday before qualifying was over.
Well, let's take a look now at the top 10 in qualifying from yesterday's first round of qualifying. We summarize it in this report done by Mike King, who's been doing some work for us here this weekend. Mike?
A warm, windy Thursday for the run for the pole. Rich Bickle wound up being the first driver out. He was scheduled to go out 39th. Because of his commitment to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series at Indianapolis Raceway Park, he was first on the track. His time, 51.111 seconds, a speed of 176.087. We asked Rich, is it an advantage to be the first driver out?
Well, I think it's a disadvantage going out first, but the track was slick. I pushed and I got a little bit loose off of 2, and I was hanging on, but I'll tell you what, to come here and to run as good as we have for the first time this season, if we make the top 25, I'll be tickled to death because this is very hard to do.
Ninth quick on the starting grid, David Green, a rookie who didn't have any jitters at all, or at least didn't appear to. Very smooth during his run, and his times reflect that. 51.093 translates into 176.149 miles an hour. No rookie jitters for this guy. In fact, David Green said afterwards, hey, I found some speed. That makes me a very happy guy.
I always look at my practice times, and if I can qualify just a tick better in our practice, I'm pretty happy. So today I got a big smile on my face.
One of the fan favorites, Ken Schrader. Schrader started on the outside of row 4, would finish 16th. This year looking for more in the Skull Bandit Chevrolet. His lap time, 51.087 seconds. That translates into a speed of 176.170 miles an hour. Good for another top 10 starting position. Schrader will start on the outside of row number 4, 8th fastest qualifier. The numbers sound good, the run looked good, but Schrader was a little disappointed.
We just missed a little bit qualifying, but it'll be a decent starting spot.
Coming back to the Midwest, this race means a lot to you.
The $4 million purse means a lot, no matter where it is.
Set to start on the inside of row 4, Ricky Rudd in the Tide Ford. His lap time yesterday, 51.083, a speed of 176.184 miles an hour. For Rudd, considerably better than what he had to deal with last year when he started this race 35th. But keep in mind that Rudd improved his starting position last year from 35th to 6th. How was the setup on the car? And, hey, did TV help aid his run?
Well, we run an 80 in practice. We qualified at a flat, and the track was really kind of treacherous to some guys, and I kind of paid attention to it. I sat in the truck and watched it on ESPN and listened to all the comments, and most of these guys got loose, and our car was a little tight when practice ended a little earlier today, so it worked out about right. We left a little on the table out there. We missed the setup just a little bit, but not as much as most of these other guys.
He was in the spotlight at last year's race. Remember, Mike Skinner was the substitute driver for an injured Dale Earnhardt. This year, though, some of the pressure is off, and he's looking good in the 31 car, the Lowe's Chevrolet. He qualifies in 51.016 seconds, a speed of 176.415 miles an hour. Mike Skinner, the fastest rookie in the field. He starts on the outside of row 3.
I think we'll have a little bit better shot this year as far as, I don't have the pressure on me that I did last year. And Dale and Richard didn't put any pressure on me. I put it on myself.
It is the stuff that legends are literally made of. Think back to 1996. Dale Earnhardt came to the Brickyard 400, the race's defending champion. But he was literally battered, bruised, and broken, the result of a vicious accident at Talladega. Despite that, he got into the car, qualified 12th, would later be relieved in the race by Mike Skinner. This year, though, the Intimidator is back, and he is healthy. Dale Earnhardt, out in the GM Goodwrench Service Plus Chevrolet, turns a lap in 50.981 seconds. That's a speed of 176.536 miles an hour, and it's good for the inside spot on row number 3. Dale Earnhardt and Mike Skinner, the Richard Childress Racing teammates, will start together on row 3, and for Earnhardt, an opportunity to break a long winless drought here at the Brickyard.
It's good to be back, and it's good to be back here healthy. And, Skinner did a great job relieving for us last year, but it might have done too good a job. He's learned to get around this racetrack. He's right there with us.
Darrell Waltrip desperately wants to win this race before he calls it a career. Last year, he started 33rd, broke early, and wound up 40th. This year, a completely different story. The crowd's biggest cheers reserved for DW and the Chrome car. Out yesterday in the Parts America Chevrolet, he turns a lap in 50.886 seconds. That's a speed of 176.866 miles an hour. And once again, the Waltrip shuffle is alive as DW starts on the outside of row number 2.
What a thrill. We just wanted to qualify decent. We didn't really think we'd be on the pole or anything. And we won't be. There'll be cars that'll beat that. But, man, they know we're here anyway. I'm so pumped. This is going to be a great weekend. I can't wait. I'm just really excited.
Dale Jarrett wants to become the first driver to win back-to-back Brickyard 400s. And in practice sessions leading up to yesterday's run for the pole, he and his teammate Ernie Irvin clearly had the 2 fastest cars on the track. Jarrett out yesterday in the Quality Care Ford Credit Ford. He turns a lap in 50.706 seconds. That's a speed of 177.494 miles an hour. Jarrett started 24th last year and came to the front. This year, the work should be easier as he starts on the inside of row number 2.
It was a good lap, a good race car that I've got. We've been really pleased with it since the first lap on the racetrack last week when we were here testing. probably not as good as I could have gotten. I know the track is slowed down, and we expected that, but I got a little conservative on my line getting into turn 1, and that hurt me a little bit. And I got on the strips there a little bit, but it didn't hurt my exit any. I just probably left a little bit on the table right there, probably just enough for Ernie and maybe another one or two to beat me.
They are calling him Front Row Joe, and for good reason. Coming into the Brickyard 400, Joe Nemechek had already racked up poles at California and Pocono, and he had already set on the outside of the front row at 2 other tracks. This year, he was looking for the inside spot on row 1 and the big payday. Joe Nemechek out in the Bell South Chevrolet turns a lap at 50.690 seconds. That's a speed of 177.550 miles an hour. A great run for Nemechek, but not quite good enough. He'll start on the outside pole, the second fastest qualifier.
One more spot is $100,000.
I tell you what, $100,000 means the difference between one spot. I wish I could do it over again. Awesome lap for the Bell South Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Hey, I hit the rumble strip a little bit down there in turn 1 and got the car a little sideways, but got back after the gas and made up for it in the other corners. Car was awesome. Tony Glover, Keith Simmons, these guys build these cars, build these engines. They're awesome. I mean awesome. And I'm just the lucky one who gets to drive it. I wish I could do it again.
But the big check and the pole position belongs to this guy, Ernie Irvan. Irvan with an amazing show of mental toughness as he goes out and puts the 28 car on the inside of row number 1. His mother is critically ill in North Carolina. He has lost his job with Robert Yates Racing. Unsure of his future, he manages to go out and turn a lap in 50.637 seconds, a speed of 177.736 miles an hour. He dedicated the pole position to his mother.
Thing is, my mother knows that racing's in my heart and racing's in her heart, so there's nothing I can do at the hospital right now, so the best thing I can do is get the pole.
Well, Ernie Irvan reached from deep inside himself to put all those thoughts aside and to do what he did. Ernie Irvan wins the Busch pole, all the money that goes with it, and a brand new van. So he's made out all right already, and the race is tomorrow.
But he's still thinking about Joe. His mom, sure. Joe, back in Concord, North Carolina, talked to him, and that's what's on his mind right now. I guess he's getting in the mode right now to win the Brickyard 400, and tomorrow afternoon after the race, his mind will go back on his mom.
Benny, I think if there were any surprises, you would have to look to the 5th row. Both occupants of the 5th row, David Green and Rich Bickle, they had outstanding runs.
Outstanding runs, and again, I am a little bit shocked that both those guys are starting up front that far. Rich Bickle, this is his first Winston Cup race in some time, probably about a year, but where did he start? 10th. Wow.
176.087 for Rich Bickle. He'll start in 10th position in a team car to Darrell Waltrip, the KFC Twister Chevrolet. Well, we're going to take a break here and be back with more live from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the eve of the 4th running of the Brickyard 400. We'll be right back. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball Game of the Week takes you to Wrigley Field in Chicago when the Cubs host the Los Angeles Dodgers Sunday night at 8 o'clock here on ESPN. Benny Parsons and I are reviewing what's happened here the last few days before they go green. Tomorrow is the big race at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and it is on ESPN. Well, we've shown you Happy Hour. We showed you the top 10 qualifiers from yesterday. And by the way, before too long, we'll show you the entire field so that you can see who else qualified in first day. But now it's time to turn our attention to second day qualifying. And we had several cars, 18 as a matter of fact, who qualified today. 8 drivers decided that they would stand on their time. So 8 went on to the track, including Kenny Wallace, who was trying to get into his second Brickyard 400. He missed the first year and has qualified 31st the last 2 years. But earlier today, Kenny Wallace went out in the Square D Ford, and he did pretty darn good, qualifying at 175.097 miles an hour. And this year, he will have his best start, 29th. As far as finishes here at the Brickyard, he finished 37th in 1995, and he finished 33rd last year. So Kenny Wallace will be trying to find a better finishing position yesterday in this car. But a great qualifying run for him. Here he's at the end of the backstretch, setting the car into turn number 3 and keeping it out of those rumble strips there onto the short chute at the north end of the racetrack.
And he was excited when that qualifying run was over, because I tell you, after yesterday's run, it looked like Kenny Wallace was going to be one of the cars going home.
So the checkered flag dropped on Kenny Wallace, and again, the speed was 175.097. We talked with Kenny.
One of the happiest guys here today is this guy, Kenny Wallace. You said that you thought about leaving. You've had a rough couple of days.
Been a terrible last couple months. We've been beat up. You know, we lost our crew chief and we had to find ourselves. And last night we called home, and believe it or not, kind of like the technological type guys, we went on a computer screen and found some new geometry and stuck it on the car. And we believed in it, you know, and my God, it was really good this morning and quicker in qualifying.
Tell us about your thoughts inside that car, because you knew you had a good one. We saw you rolling down here, and you were obviously very happy with it.
Well, I make my qualifying run, everything normal, just with my radio off. And then after my run, I put my radio on, and they told me, and we got us a pole already at Martinsville. We're in the Busch Clash, so it was just big for me to be in the Brickyard 400. It's a huge deal.
Another guy this afternoon can't believe the troubles that he has had this week at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Crashed one of the fastest cars on Wednesday, crashed his car, had to go to backup, and this car, when they told him to roll off to qualify today, his car would not start. NASCAR put him on the 5-minute clock. Finally, with about a minute and a half to go, they got the car started. He was able to go out and make this qualifying run.
And Benny, a lot of cars come here with no sponsorship and find local sponsorship. Delta Faucets is headquartered here in Indianapolis. They're very active in the IRL. They've sponsored Buddy Lazier, who won the Indy 500 a couple of years ago, and they're still sponsoring him, and they've put their name on this car. And also Himmelgarn Racing, Ron Himmelgarn, owns Buddy Lazier's car.
And you wondered, after all the problems that Lake Speed had, could he get it in the Brickyard 400? It looked like it was only fair that he would be able to start. And start he will, starting 27th at 175.210. Another very happy guy.
Lake Speed, second quickest here, second day qualifying. What was the difference between day one and day two?
Well, you know, we lost our primary car Wednesday afternoon at the very end of practice, so we had to bring up a backup car out, and there was a lot of things that had to be changed on it, and we just didn't get everything changed yesterday before qualifying, and the guys kept working on it after qualifying yesterday, and we picked the speed back up quite a bit. And today, this morning, we ran quite quick this morning, and we just felt like all we needed to do was just get a good conservative lap in, just make sure we got in this race first, you know, not really try to go out and set any speed records. So that's really, we try to put a conservative lap in then.
Did the track change very much for you, or was it everything that changed for you, obviously, what the crew did for the car?
Well, some of it's the track conditions a little bit. From when last time we was on a track, the temperature was quite a bit different than it is right now. So the track greases up a little bit and gets a little less adhesion. That's why the speeds fall off. You know, we were running in the 50s the last of this practice session, and you drop off into the 51s when the temperature of the sun and everything comes out. So you have to kind of compensate for that a little bit, but most of all, you just have to go for it.
Lake Speed, all he wanted to do was put it safely in the show, and guys, he did just that.
Jeff Green, another guy who had an excellent run today. After the practice period this morning, this guy's name was at the top of the chart, so we knew that he had found a lot of speed from yesterday. The question is, can he translate that now on a qualifying run? Because you've told me many times, Benny, there's one thing to be out there practicing with everybody else, but when the crunch time comes and you're the only one on the track, it gets a little harder.
He was fastest car in practice this morning. He was about 7th fastest car in practice yesterday morning. But comes time to qualify, the track, the sun beating down the racetrack changed. They did not make an adjustment and could not make the field. Today, they made those adjustments from practice to qualifying, and it helped.
It sure did help. Jeff Green, driving the Cartoon Network Chevrolet, turned in a great performance. As a matter of fact, he is the fastest second-round qualifier, and now his name goes into a hat. Then one name will be drawn from that hat to be in the Busch Clash in February. 176.153. Green, the fastest second-round qualifier.
Jeff, that Cartoon Network car, no joke, during second day qualifying, you're the fastest man here in day two.
We should have done that yesterday. We had a car to do it yesterday. I just got real loose, and I couldn't use the throttle. Didn't want to wreck, so it's better to wait to do it today for sure.
What do you guys find during that early morning practice session enabled you to go that much quicker?
We changed a lot of things. A lot of spring changes this morning to equal the sunshine. That's what we heard yesterday. We was good when it was cold, but when it got hot, we was loose.
Question is now, you got yourself a good race car?
Absolutely. Can't wait till tomorrow.
Jeff Green, boy, is he happy, and he should be. He's our fastest qualifier here during day 2.
And Benny, he is 9th fastest overall, and if he had turned in that performance in first round, he and David would be starting side by side in the 5th row.
And he and David Green.
Yeah.
But you know, as happy as some of these guys were, a lot of guys were very unhappy today.
That's right, and here is the list of the drivers who failed to qualify for the Brickyard 400 and then packed up and are leaving. Some good drivers on this list, and it's too bad that they will not be participating, but that's how everything shook out in qualifying here yesterday and today. We'll be right back. Well, the road to the Brickyard is just about complete. They are here, and we have decided who will start the race. We're kind of reviewing things for you here on this program live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Well, it's time to take a look now at the entire field as they will start tomorrow at a little after 1 o'clock Eastern Time. The pole sitter for this year's race, Ernie Irvin at 177.738, a new track record. Front row Joe Nemechek in the Bell South Chevy alongside.
Then it's last year's winner, Dale Jarrett, alongside the oldest driver in the race, Darrell Waltrip, at age 50.
Childress team, Dale Earnhardt and his teammate Mike Skinner are by themselves in row number 3.
Ricky Rudd, Kenny Schrader will make up in row 4.
David Green, a rookie in the series and here at the track, will start 9th alongside of Rich Bickle.
There we see Robbie Gordon, ran the Indy 500, going to try the Brickyard 400 alongside Bobby Hamilton.
Sterling Marlin and Wally Dallenbach will make up the 7th row.
8th row is Bill Elliott, and we'll flip over. See, 16th will be Jeremy Mayfield in the Kmart RC Cola Ford Thunderbird.
And then comes Rick Mast, who was the pole sitter for the inaugural Brickyard 400. Michael Waltrip alongside.
Steve Grissom, good qualifying run alongside last year's Pontiac, the best Pontiac in last year's race. Johnny Benson led the most laps in the 96 Brickyard 400.
And another Pontiac, Chad Little, who was very quick in the final practice this afternoon, alongside Ted Musgrave, who I believe was the fastest in happy hour.
And then Ron Barfield, Bill Elliott's protege, alongside the 1995 winner of the Brickyard 400, Jeff Gordon.
Bobby Labonte got the final locked-in position on the first day of qualifying. Then today's second round, fastest qualifier, Jeff Green, there in row number 13.
I think I said Jeff Gordon was 95. It was 94. He won it.
Yeah.
And then it's Lake Speed in 27th and Jeff Purvis in the outside of row 14.
The 29th starting position goes to Kenny Wallace in the Square D Ford. Ed Barrier, another first-time driver here in Indianapolis, will start in the 30th position.
And then comes a driver that a lot of folks thought could win this race, Mark Martin, the Valvoline Ford 31st, Derek Cope in 32nd.
Jeff Burton will start in the 33rd position, and Rick Wilson 34th.
John Andretti from Indianapolis in the RCA car, and Ward Burton make up row 18.
Greg Sachs drives the 91 car this week, and the defending series champion Terry Labonte gets the final qualifying position.
Here's the provisionals. Kyle Petty and Jimmy Spencer, the first two.
Ricky Craven and Brett Bodine also get provisionals, and Rusty Wallace takes the previous champion's provisional and will be the 43rd starter in tomorrow's race. So there you have the entire lineup. And again, the green flag will drop shortly after 1 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow on these 43 drivers. And they'll be off for 160 laps of racing in the 4th Brickyard 400. We'll be back with more Before They Go Green live from Indianapolis in a moment. Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This, of course, is videotape taken earlier today because everything is very quiet here at the Speedway as the sun begins to set in the west. We've got a lot of racing for you later tonight out at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Immediately following this program, Dave Despain will host Speed Week, and then right after that will be the Kroger 200 for the Busch Grand National cars.
And qualifying yesterday, I guess Jeff Gordon was probably the biggest shock of all. The pole sitter for the last two Brickyard 400s. Last year he did it sideways coming off turn 4, and this time Best he could do was 24th.
And as a matter of fact, the Team Henry cars didn't do well at all. Jeff was the best, 24th. Terry Labonte, who's third in the point standing, starts 38, and Ricky Craven in 41st position. So Mike King decided he would talk to Ray Evernham to find out what in the world's wrong.
Twice the pole winning crew chief, and of course, you know what it's like to be in victory lane here, but it's been a little bit of a struggle here these last couple of days.
Yeah, we brought this car, and it was my choice to bring it, and I knew it wasn't going to qualify good. Didn't expect it to qualify that bad, but if we don't run good tomorrow, I'll stand up and take responsibility and say, hey, I made the wrong decision. But based on this morning's practice and the way I feel about the car, I don't feel I'm going to have to do that tomorrow. I think it's a good car, and we just missed qualifying, but I really feel good about tomorrow.
But you say you knew coming in that you didn't expect this car to do well in qualifying, so the whole time you were pointing towards the race. How did this morning's practice session go? You talked about it briefly. How did it go, and what gains did you expect to make?
Well, we're back on plan. When we tested here, we tested mostly race setup stuff. We didn't try and see how fast we could go. I thought we could go fast enough. Obviously not. But race-wise, we're right back on track, and now I've got a plan for things. We were thrown off a good bit yesterday. We got kind of off of our base plan, but this morning we're right back on it, and things are going as scheduled, so everybody's comfort level is a lot higher.
Of course, some changes in this track since just about everybody tested here with the new pavement, now the rumble strips. Has it changed anything about your plan of attack here?
Everybody's kind of suffering the same thing. They told us about the rumble strips. The new pavement was a little bit of a surprise, but they needed to do it, and everybody's kind of fighting the same thing. It's something that Jeff is getting more and more used to, and as the cars run more and get more rubber down, I think that newness is going away.
Talking about the problem with this car in qualifying, getting it race ready, tweaking it out. Power problem, handling problem. Where did the problem lie?
Depends on who you ask. If you ask, but it was handling. It's all handling. I think it takes a different combination car here. Last 2 years we've sat on the pole and really not run good in the race. And this year we worked hard on the race setup. And like I said, I think we just missed a little bit qualifying. And this car is just not a qualifier. And when the grill is open and all the cooling's on and it's in race trim, it still turns good, and that's what we're looking for.
Okay, Ray Evernham, of course, the crew chief for Jeff Gordon. He hopes that the roll of the dice is going to pay off tomorrow come race day.
Well, certainly don't count Jeff Gordon out of any race, regardless of where he starts. You talked with Ray just before we went on the air. Any update?
He told me exactly the same thing he said on tape. Folks, did he show some confidence there? I mean, he is confident that he has made the right decision, that he brought the right car here. They wanted to bring a car, as he said, that would turn good. When Jeff Gordon gets down the corner and turns that steering wheel, they want that car to turn and go the other direction. They're concerned that that was going to be the problem for a lot of cars tomorrow. They're going to the corner, they're going to turn the steering wheel, the car's going to want to push. That's what they're trying to do. He said, I felt like the car wouldn't qualify well, but I didn't know it qualified that bad.
Jeff Gordon won the inaugural race last year. He was out early, finishing in 37th position. Okay, we'll take another break and be back with more live from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway before they go green. All we have done so far is just preliminary to the big event. ABC Sports brings you the action from the Brickyard 400. You'll see it live tomorrow beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern Time over on ABC. Well, as you can see, the stands are empty now, and everybody has gone home, but they'll be back. All the seats here in this great facility will be filled to capacity tomorrow as we present the fourth running of this race.
The only sad part, all the fans have gone home. We're still here.
Yeah, and we still got about 18 more minutes to go. Well, it's time to hear from the pole sitter of this race. Ernie Irvan has really shown some strength here this weekend. He qualified for the pole position yesterday, breaking the track record 177.736. Mike King was our guy to talk with him.
In racing, mental toughness is the name of the game. Certainly, Ernie Irvan has shown an awful lot of that. Ernie, on the pole, I know you're looking forward to the race.
Yeah, I really am. But right now we got to get the car handling real good and be able to execute when come Saturday.
We've talked about you guys running a pack during these practice sessions. Rumble strips, have they come into play at all with you?
No, I think the rumble strips are a good idea and, make for a better race.
As for you mentally, obviously you've been able to put a lot of things here on the back burner and focus on this race. How do you feel going into this thing?
I feel real good. Obviously my mind's other places, other times, but I think I'm going to be able to handle it.
Ernie Irvan, his mind right now is on winning the Brickyard 400.
You know, one of the real big stories as we opened our coverage on Wednesday were the rumble strips. They had just been put in. Nobody knew how they were going to affect the drivers. And there was even talk of taking them out on Thursday if the drivers didn't like them on Wednesday. And they've really become a non-factor.
A non-factor? That's exactly what the drivers were telling me. Well, we're not going to like these things. And I really feel like that NASCAR talked to the Speedway. And Wednesday night, I fully expected those strips to come out. And they're just bolted into the pavement. They're just bolted in. But I fully expected those things to come out and not be there in the cars down next to the grass. But they're a non-factor. You're right.
By the way, stay tuned because later in this program, we're going to show you how they were installed. And I think you'll get a little better idea of how big they are and exactly how they're anchored into the racetrack. Well, there was some news that came out of here earlier today. Robert Yates, as you know, Ernie Irvan isn't going to drive for Robert Yates next year. And the new driver for the 28 car was named. It's Kenny Irwin Jr.
I would say there's a lot more pressure if I got in a new startup team to win races. At least I know that when I get in the 28 that's capable of winning races. I think you could look at that however. You think there's a lot of pressure with Texaco and everything that it stands for in Robert Yates. But I'd sure rather be in this car than a new startup team.
Kenny, I'm not so sure. We got to come back next year and play that tape and try to get Kenny Irwin sitting here between us and say, what do you think, Kenny? Is this the right situation, or would you rather be in a startup car where there's not so much pressure? Because let's face it, he's going to be just like in a goldfish boat.
Yeah, I can understand how he's thinking, but on the other hand, he's got a tough road to hoe ahead of him, and I hope he's successful. He's certainly been great in the open wheel cars, a former USAC champion. Next year with Robert Yates in the 28 car, Kenny Irwin Jr. The program is Before They Go Green. Bob Jenkins and Benny Parsons live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We have pretty sunsets in Indiana, too.
Wow, that is gorgeous. I just hope it's like that tomorrow night.
Yes, let's hope so. Weather forecast is good, though, for tomorrow. You know, I was looking over the statistics. We've been bragging about how Joe Nemechek will start in second position. He has qualified very well the last 2 years here. He started 6th the last 2 years, and he has finished 27th the last 2 years. So at least his starts have been good here.
Well, he's moved up the start position. Now he's got to move up the
finishing positions. That's right. And we had a chance also to talk with Joe Nemechek. He, too, has had some emotional problems during the year, but he appears to be on track now. He'll start from the second position tomorrow.
Joe Nemechek's car being made race ready now, and certainly you saved one of the best runs for last yesterday, going out next to last and qualifying well enough to sit on the outside front row. 5th time this year. Tell us a little bit about the run.
The run was pretty good. You know, the Bell South Chevrolet Monte Carlo, we've been running good ever since we unloaded the car off the truck, and this wasn't my favorite car. My favorite car got hurt last week at Pocono, and they made this one just like it, and it's running just as good now. So now I got 2 real good cars. But Tony Glover and the guys, they built a heck of a car. Keith Simmons and all the engine guys built some awesome engines, and you have to have the whole package. I'm lucky one that gets to go out there and drive it. Had a real good lap. Hit the rumble strips and won just a little bit and cost me a little bit of time, but the rest of the track we nailed really good. Car ran down the straightaways pretty awesome, and we just missed it by a little bit.
You know, you talk about the rumble strips. You said you really didn't scrub any speed there. How much will those rumble strips come into play during the race?
Well, they're pretty big. I know just in practice when guys are down low and you're trying to pass, if you hit those things, their cars get all jacked around, and I think if you hit them in the race and you're really tight, there's going to be a couple of them go sliding up in the fence.
Bob, Benny, this is a guy that'll start on the outside of the front row. He's Front Row Joe, and he lived up to his name yesterday, that's for sure.
And, of course, the emotional problems that I mentioned a little bit earlier was the loss of his brother, John, in a NASCAR Craftsman truck crash in Homestead, Florida. But Joe has certainly put all those thoughts behind him. He starts second in tomorrow's race. And I think since Tony Glover joined him, they have really showed their stuff.
Boy, they really have. And you kept talking about, don't we have something about these rumble strips?
Yeah, we do. As a matter of fact, we're going to show you that to you right now. Now, I have not seen this video, and so this is going to be as new to us as it is to you. Now, folks.
No, no. There's the rumble strip.
There they are. But apparently they dug some holes out and then filled it with concrete, and then they put these rumble strips in, there are the plugs that go into the racing surface itself. And these plugs, I guess, are made out of nylon or hard rubber or something.
There's some type of nylon. Now, that's just nothing but a piece of brick that holds it down till the concrete sets up.
Yeah, they don't run over those huge concrete blocks, that's for sure. But this was the installation of these rumble strips, which was just a few weeks ago. And, of course, all this designed to keep the cars out of, there again are the plugs that they go into, to keep the cars out of the grass. Last year, that was a major problem.
It was a major problem, especially they had put some new grass in. They had some nails, some carpet nails there, and were kicking those nails up on the racetrack. Jeff Gordon, also Kyle Petty, punctured tires with those nails, blew and hit the wall. That's the reason that Jeff Gordon fell out of the race.
And not only that, but they were kicking up dust and dirt and sand and grass on the racetrack and making a little slick in the turn. So all that has been remedied by the installation of the rumble strips here at Indianapolis. Benny and I will be right back with more. There is more motorsports on the ESPN family. ESPN2 will be bringing you the NHRA Northwest Nationals from Seattle International Dragway Sunday at 8:30 Eastern Time, and you can also catch the qualifying action on the Deuce tonight at 10 o'clock. It's all on ESPN2. There's a live shot of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Getting kind of dark here, but the lights are on out at Indianapolis Raceway Park. And again, a reminder to stay tuned for Speed Week, followed by the Kroger 200 Busch Grand National race. Now let's talk about some more news that happened over the last couple of days here. Of course, Joe Gibbs has Bobby Labonte as his driver, but he's also going to a brand new team this year and adding a second driver at least in the Busch Series. And that driver will be another former USAC champion, Tony Stewart.
Our schedule is going to be pretty busy next year with testing the Cup car and testing and racing the Busch car in the IRL. So I've already started slowing down on my open wheel races, and next year the focus is definitely going to be with the Busch car and the IRL car, and I don't see us running as busy a schedule with cars outside of those two divisions as what we've been doing this year. But we'll sneak one in every now and then, but the focus is with the Busch car and the IRL, and I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt either one of those programs right now.
Jimmy, our crew chief, and Bobby, we all sat down, made a master plan. Tony's the guy we wanted to try and get for Bobby's teammate, and so they were in on all that, but it was my job to chase things down, and I just want to say that someday I'll probably write a book on trying to get these two guys.
Now that looks to me like the perfect situation.
Yeah.
Tony Stewart, 1 year of Busch Grand National Racing to mature him, get him ready for the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Now that, to me, looks like the perfect recipe.
Now, Benny, we have seen just in the last 10 minutes 2 former USAC open wheel champions that are being called upon by the Winston Cup drivers to join them. Are we seeing a trend here?
It really is surprising. I guess everyone is trying to find the next Jeff Gordon.
Exactly. And, of course, that's where Jeff Gordon came from. Okay, let's continue to show you some news items from the past couple of days. The new Ford for the 1998 NASCAR Winston Cup season was unveiled at the Indianapolis Convention Center earlier this week. It's not a Thunderbird. That's gone. It's the new Taurus.
Wow, look at those drivers. Rusty, Dale, Garrett, Ernie Irvin, Mark Martin. That is pretty spiffy. And you know what, folks? It doesn't look like your family four-door sedan. It looks like a race car.
It really looks like a Taurus. As far as what else is new here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, well, Mike King has been investigating a lot of things around the area, and he has found a helmet that may help keep the drivers cool tomorrow if it's hot.
Well, guys, the folks at Bell Helmets have decided they needed to find a way for at least Ken Schrader to keep a cool head tomorrow. This is the invention, of course, a standard air intake system here in the helmet. But what they have done is they have outfitted this helmet with a tiny fan right back here. So this is where the exhaust system is on this helmet, if you will. The fan just inside of here. So all the hot air that comes off of Kenny Schrader's head goes out, cool air stays in. Thus, you've got one cool-headed race driver come race day.
So that's the new innovation as far as helmets are concerned.
I wouldn't have much to cool, would I?
We'll be back to wrap this thing up at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in just a moment. before they go green. ESPN Speed World presentation of Before They Go Green, live from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, is being brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that anything can happen at Miller time. Well, we've done just about all we can do here, haven't we?
Yes, we sure have. The only thing left to do is throw the green flag and get this thing over with and find out who is going to win.
And the last 3 years have just been tremendous here with this crowd that will gather here to watch the drivers. And I'm excited about tomorrow. Hope you'll be able to join us on ABC. Here once again is a look at the starting lineup, the rows and the drivers who will take the green flag at a little after 1 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow afternoon.
There are the first 15. Bill Elliott will start 15, 16 through 30th. Starts out with Jeremy Mayfield. Back in 26 is Jeff Green, the fastest qualifier on second day. Ed Barrier will start 30th.
And in 31st position will be Mark Martin. Down through 38 were those drivers that made it in on their qualifying speed, and the provisionals went to Kyle Petty, Jimmy Spencer, Ricky Craven, Brett Bodine, and Rusty Wallace. So, what do you think? Who's going to win?
Now, everyone, I know you're all just waiting. Now, who is going to win this thing? Folks, I don't have a clue. Not the first clue is going to. All I want to see is a great race. I want to be excited at the end of all through that 400 miles. I want to be excited at the end of the race. I want to jump out of that booth and congratulate the guy who drove a great race and won the thing.
It's not very difficult to get him excited either, I'll tell you. A lot of people ask me, well, who do you want to see win, or what make of car do you want to see win? I could care less. I have no preferences whatever, as long as it's a nice, safe race tomorrow. That is the important thing. Coming up next here on ESPN Speed Week with Dave Despain live at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Randy LaJoy is on the pole for the Kroger 200 Busch Series Grand National Division. For Benny Parsons, I'm Bob Jenkins. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.